The alien ship broke through Earth's orbit like a knife through water. It was a large black vessel shaped like a scorpion, long, sharp, and ready to strike. Inside were soldiers from the Varnock Empire, one of the most feared civilizations in the galaxy. They had come for a job no other alien race wanted, guarding Earth's Deathworld prison. Commander Valrek stood tall inside the ship's command room. His gray skin shimmered under the red lights, and 4 yellow eyes watched the screens as the planet grew bigger below. He turned to his second-in-command, Larek. "Prepare the landing team. Bring the shock troops. We take control in 1 hour." Valrek said, "Yes, Commander." "Do you think the humans will resist?" Larek asked. Val Rek smiled. "They're weak. They begged the Council for help. This is just cleanup duty." But he was wrong. The ship landed in a remote desert, far from any human cities. The sky was gray. The land was dry. And in the middle of nowhere stood the massive prison. It was not made of metal. It was made of black stone, smooth and cold, with no windows. No sound came from inside. No guards stood at the doors. Valrek stepped out, followed by 20 armed soldiers in full armor. Each one carried plasma rifles and personal shields. "Strange. Where is the welcome team?" Larek asked. The entrance opened with a slow hiss. No one was there. Inside, the prison was colder than space. The air felt heavy, like it didn't want to be breathed. The walls were dark gray, with long, empty hallways stretching into shadows. Valrek checked his wrist device. The map said there were over 400 prisoners inside, each one dangerous. Each one locked away by humans for reasons unknown. "Split up. Sector Alpha through Gamma. Check all cells," Valrek ordered. Soldiers obeyed. They moved quickly through the prison. But as each group returned, their faces showed confusion. Every single cell was empty. "Impossible," Valrek growled. "Are the humans playing games?" He stormed to the central control room. The door was wide open. Inside, the lights were off. A single figure stood in the corner, mopping the floor slowly. An old man. He wore a janitor's uniform, human, white hair. Bent back, weak hands. Valrek pointed his weapon. "Where are the prisoners?" The old man looked up, smiled softly, and said just 5 words. "You're not ready for this." Valrek grabbed the man by his shirt and slammed him against the wall. "Speak clearly, old one. What did you do? Did you release them?" The man only shook his head. "You're not ready. No one is." Suddenly, the lights blinked. The room filled with static. A screen on the wall turned on security footage from all over the prison. Valrek watched closely. No signs of breakout. No tunnels, no explosions, no missing time. The prisoners had just vanished. "Larek, scan for energy spikes. Check if they teleported," Valrek ordered. "No unusual energy detected, but..." Larek frowned. "I found something strange." He held up a data pad. A section of the prison showed on the map, Sector X. It was not marked on any file. Hidden. No one mentioned it. And it was sealed shut with organic locks. Living, pulsing systems only the original builders could open. "Open it," Valrek sighed. "It's not safe, Commander," Larek warned. "Nothing is safe anymore. Open it." It took them 1 hour to bypass the lock. The door to Sector X opened with a groan, like something ancient waking up. Inside, the air was colder. The walls were covered with symbols, strange writing that moved when you looked too long. The team entered carefully. There were cells here too, but these were different. There were no bars, no force fields, no doors, and yet, inside each room, sat a human prisoner. Still. Silent. Staring. "Impossible," Larek whispered. "They are not locked, but they do not leave." Valrek stepped forward. One of the prisoners, a woman with silver eyes, looked up. "Oh, new visitors," she said softly. "It's been a while. Why are you sitting there? You are free to go." She smiled. but it wasn't a happy smile. "We stay here because it is safer for the universe." "Safer? From what?" Valrek asked. "From us." Valrek turned and left the room. He was angry, confused, and scared, though he would never admit it. He called for the janitor again. "Tell me what this place really is." The janitor sat on a crate, looking tired. "This isn't a prison like others," he said. "These people, they are not criminals. Then what are they?" The old man looked up. His eyes were sad. "They are mistakes." Valrek returned to the Sector X chamber. The prisoners did not try to escape. Some meditated. Some just stared at the walls. One was drawing on the floor with blood from his own finger, but there were no wounds on him. Then a soldier shouted, "Commander, one of them just vanished." Valrek rushed in. A cell was empty. No sign of movement. No exit. No alarm. Just gone. "Check the cameras." They replayed the footage. The prisoner was sitting. Then blinked and was gone. No flash. No teleport. As if erased. Valrek stared at the footage again and again. He didn't understand. His people were logical, scientific, superior. And yet, here, in this old human prison, nothing made sense. Another prisoner looked out at him. This one had no eyes. No hair. His skin was black and cracked like burned coal. He spoke. "Commander Valrek of the Varnak, I saw your dream last night. You miss your daughter." Valrek froze. He had never spoken of his daughter to anyone. She had died in a fire. No one knew that. How did you know?" He whispered. The prisoner only smiled. "We see everything. That's why we are here. You're monsters. No, just survivors. Of the worst parts of ourselves." Back in the ship, the Varnak soldiers refused to sleep. Some had headaches. Others claimed they heard whispers. One even said he saw a prisoner inside the ship, even though none had left. Valrek couldn't believe it. He ordered full lockdown. No entry, no exit. But it was too late. The prison had already started working on their minds. That night, Valrek stood outside the janitor's room. "Tell me the truth. Why are there no guards here? Why didn't the humans keep this place secured?" The janitor leaned against the wall, eyes closed. "Because we don't guard them." "What? We don't guard them. They guard themselves. And we hope they never stop." Valrek stepped back. His mind raced. He looked at the Sector X door again. Inside. Those prisoners waited. They had nothing holding them, no chains, no force. But they didn't leave, because whatever they held inside themselves was worse than anything outside. The prison was no longer silent. After the first prisoner vanished without warning, strange things began happening. The alien guards, once proud and fearless, now walked slower. They whispered more. They jumped at shadows. Commander Valrek sat alone in the control room, reviewing hours of footage. Again and again, he watched the same moment, the prisoner blinking out of existence. It wasn't teleportation. It wasn't escape. It was something else. Something terrifying. Larek entered the room with a pale face. "Commander, one of our soldiers saw his own reflection move differently from him. He's refusing to leave his room." Valrek looked up sharply. "Where?" "Sector X, near the woman with silver eyes." Valrek stood, fists tight. "Enough of this madness. Call the janitor." The janitor arrived calmly, carrying a mug of steaming tea. His uniform looked too big on his small, old body. But there was something in his eyes, something sharp. Valrek didn't bother being polite. "You're going to tell me everything. No riddles. No smiles. What is this place really?" The janitor sat down and took a long sip. "I already told you, Commander. This isn't a prison. It's a warning." "From who?" "From us, humans. A warning to everyone else in the galaxy. You should have listened." "Listen to what?" The janitor placed the cup down gently. "The sign at the entrance." Valrek remembered. A small metal plate above the gate. He had thought it was just a nameplate. It read, Sector 9, do not open. Ever. Valrek slammed his hand on the table. Then why was it so easy to unlock? The janitor's voice dropped. Because the prison wants to be opened. Once in a while. It's the only way the galaxy remembers why it should never come back. That makes no sense. Exactly. Meanwhile, in Sector X, something had changed. The walls, once smooth, had begun to pulse slowly, as if breathing. Prisoners remained calm, sitting in perfect stillness. But their eyes followed every movement. One alien guard stood too close. To a cell. The prisoner, a bald man with glowing veins, whispered something. The guard dropped his weapon. Blood poured from his nose. He collapsed, eyes wide, frozen like stone. The other guards pulled him out. He was alive. But his mind was gone. He kept repeating just one word. Run. Valrek rushed to the medical bay. Report. His brain. Patterns are not organic anymore, the medic said. It's like something rewrote him. Valrek felt cold. His empire had built armies, destroyed planets, even fought time-bending species. But never had he seen fear like this. He looked at the janitor again. What are they? The old man didn't smile this time. They're leftovers. Of what? Of humanity at its worst moment. The janitor stood up and walked to a nearby screen. He tapped on a hidden file, something not even Valrek had found. A video played, grainy footage. A war zone, human soldiers fighting, other humans, not aliens. Not machines, but enhanced humans. Their bodies were glowing. They were flying, melting metal with their hands, screaming in languages not heard before. The camera shook as cities fell, oceans boiled, and the sky burned red. What is this? Valrek whispered. The project, the janitor said. They were built to fight a war that ended before it began. We called them Echo-class humans. They weren't born. They were created. Each one designed to carry a specific disaster inside them, like a living weapon. Rage, fear, time bend, void travel, you name it. Valrek stared in silence. But you won the war? He asked. The janitor looked down. No, the war stopped because the humans started losing control of their own weapons. We tried to destroy them, but we couldn't. They were unkillable. So we tricked them. We built this place and convinced them to stay. Valrek's voice trembled. They're staying here by choice? Yes, why would they do that? Because they fear what they'll become if they don't. In Sector X, Lorek and 3 other soldiers scanned a prisoner's room with energy tools. Don't look at them in the eyes, Lorek warned. It's safer. One of the soldiers chuckled. They're just sitting there. What can they do? He looked up at the prisoner. A young woman with fire dancing in her pupils met his eyes, just for a second. The soldier screamed and started pulling at his helmet. His skin turned black. Flames erupted from his mouth. Within 5 seconds he was gone, a pile of dust and armor. Lorek turned away in horror. We need to get out, now. Back in the control room, alarms rang. Energy spike in Sector X. The AI announced. Valrek looked at the janitor. What happens if more of them disappear? They don't disappear, the janitor said. They evolve. Valrek opened a come to the ship. Prepare emergency evacuation. We're leaving this planet. Too late. Larek's voice came through, broken and terrified. We tried to seal Sector X again. It won't close. It's watching us. That night, the prison shook, not from attack, but from something waking up. A voice echoed through every hallway. Calm, human, but deep like thunder. We have watched long enough. The stars are still cruel. Maybe it's time to go see them again. The prisoners were talking, not to the guards, but to each other. Valrek's ship lifted off before sunrise. Half the crew was lost. The others refused to speak about what they had seen. The prison stood silent again. The janitor watched the ship vanish into the sky. Then he turned to Sector X. "Not yet," he whispered. "Just a little longer." Inside the black zone, one prisoner opened her eyes. Her voice was soft, but it traveled through every wall. "Commander Valrek, thank you for visiting. You brought ... change," she smiled. "Next time we won't be here." The Varnock ship drifted silently through space, far from Earth. Inside, Commander Valrek stared at the stars, his mind heavy. They had escaped the Deathworld prison. But something had followed them. Not a ship, not a being. A feeling, a deep, silent fear. The Varnock High Council demanded answers. In a meeting full of holograms and blinking lights, Valrek stood before leaders of his race. "You're telling us humans keep their worst weapons in a prison, guarded by janitors?" One elder scoffed. "No," Valrek replied calmly. "They're not guarded at all. They guard themselves." The council laughed, but one voice didn't join. Elder Tyrin, the oldest and most experienced, leaned forward. "What made them stay, Commander?" Valrek paused. "Guilt." Back on Earth, inside the Deathworld prison, the janitor walked through Sector X slowly. The walls still pulsed like a slow heartbeat. The prisoners sat in silence. No guards, no chains, no threats. They were free to leave, but they didn't single quotes . Each one carried a power they didn't trust, a past they wanted to forget. They had seen what happened when they lost control. Galaxies burned. Time shattered. Minds turned into dust. So they stayed. One prisoner stood out. A boy. He looked only 16, brown hair, quiet eyes, a simple shirt. His cell had no bed, no food, no tools. Still, he smiled when the janitor passed by. "Morning, Mr. Gray," the boy said. The janitor nodded. "Still holding up, Eli?" "Trying," Eli said. "I dreamed again last night." "What did?" "You see?" Eli looked down. "I destroyed Saturn." "Only in your dream," the janitor said kindly. Eli looked up again. "But what if I do it for real next time?" In the observation room, deep underground, a human warden named Dahlia watched. The prisoners through old, flickering monitors. She was blind, but she didn't need eyes. Her mind was connected to the prison itself. She could feel their thoughts like whispers. Pain, regret, power. Each prisoner was a living storm, barely contained. She felt something new. One of them was changing. In a separate cell, a man sat cross-legged. His skin was covered in black tattoos. Not ink, but moving shadows. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. His name was Corin. Once known as the Silencer of Stars, he had destroyed 3 moons with a single thought during the last human war. Now, he meditated. Until today. His eyes opened, and the shadows around him began to rise. The janitor felt it. The air got colder. He walked quickly to Dahlia's office. "Something's stirring," he said. "Corin's awake." Dahlia nodded slowly. "I know, Eli's too. Should we call for help?" Dahlia shook her head. "There's no help to call. No one out there understands what this place really is." In space, aboard a stealth cruiser, another alien race, the Krelth, watched Earth through hidden satellites. They had heard of the Varnock's failure. Now they wanted to try their luck. "We will not fear humans," said Captain Dran. "We will control their weapons, use their prisoners as soldiers." "How?" his officer asked. Dron smiled. "With the mind tether. We'll link with one of them. Make it obey." Back in the prison, Eli sat alone. He felt something strange, like a rope pulling at his mind. He closed his eyes. In the distance, in space, Captain Dran cheered. "We have a connection." But it was not control. It was a mistake, because Eli followed the rope back. In a second, Eli's mind expanded. He saw Dran's ship, saw every system, every heartbeat of every crew member. And then, he crushed the connection. Inside the alien ship, alarms exploded. Crew members fell to the floor. Screaming, their minds were filled with every fear they had ever felt, all at once. Captain Dron tried to move, but his body turned to dust before he could speak. The ship floated dead in space. A warning. Eli opened his eyes. He whispered to himself, afraid. I didn't mean to do that. The janitor stood in the hallway, frozen. He had felt it, like lightning across the soul. He knew what this meant. The prisoners were growing stronger, even without contact, even without triggers, just from time. And thought. Commander Valrek sat alone in his quarters. He had not slept in days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those prisoners again, still, silent, watching. His communicator beeped. A secret message from Earth. The janitor's voice. They're changing. We need watchers again, real ones. Valrek replied with only one word. No. But it didn't matter. He already knew he'd returned that deep in Sector X. The prisoner with shadow tattoos, Corinne, stood up for the first time in years. The air cracked around him. He looked at the wall and whispered, time to check the stars. The wall dissolved. No force field, no explosion. Just gone. He stepped out of his cell. The prison didn't stop him. No alarm sounded, because the prison wasn't built to stop them. It was built to remind them. But now, the reminders were fading. The blind warden Dahlia stood in her chamber. One is walking, she said. The janitor nodded. And another is whispering. How long do we have? She asked. The janitor's voice was heavy. Until the third one stands. They both went quiet, because they knew who the third was. He had never opened his eyes. In the deepest cell of the prison, colder than space, darker than void. A figure lay still. He had never moved, never spoken. Some believed he was dead, but tonight, his finger twitched. Just once. The prison groaned. The planet trembled. The stars outside flickered. The prisoners still sat quietly, but now, they were no longer guarding themselves. They were waiting. The prison groaned again. It was not the sound of metal or stone. It was deeper. Like something old and powerful was stretching after a long sleep. The janitor stopped sweeping. He felt it in his bones. Far below Sector X. Someone had moved. In the observation room. Warden Dahlia sat in silence. She was blind, but through her mind link with the prison, she could see everything. And now she felt a crack in one of the minds. One prisoner was losing control. Or, worse, choosing not to hold back anymore. She whispered to the AI beside her, alert the janitor. We have a leak. In Sector X, Corinne walked slowly down the hall. His shadow tattoos were alive now, moving like black smoke. Wherever he stepped, the floor darkened. The other prisoners did not look at him, but they all felt him. Even Eli. Eli sat in his cell, holding his head. His ears rang. His nose bled. Memories were crashing into him. Memories he didn't own. What is this? He whispered. These aren't mine. He saw images broken and fast. A sun melting in the sky. A child screaming as time moved backward. A city floating upside down, crumbling silently. A man laughing while being erased from reality. Eli clutched the floor. He was seeing the past of others, the pain, the terror, the war. He was seeing the Echo Project. From inside their minds. Above Sector X, the janitor met Warden Dahlia. The leak is spreading, she said. Eli's mind is being flooded with the others' memories. He's too young, the janitor replied. He can't handle it. If we don't stop the leak now, he might not stay human. Then we better go to him. They took the old elevator, one that hadn't moved in years. Meanwhile, in deep space, a listening probe captured something strange. An alien research station, 12 light years from Earth, suddenly received a vision. Not a message, not a signal, but a full dream. Everyone on the station saw it at the same time, a dream of Earth breaking apart in silence, and a prison made of black stone floating upward into space. The Then they all heard a voice. "Do not come." The station shut down. The scientists aboard refused to speak. Some clawed at their own heads. The news spread fast. Earth was off limits. Again. Back in the Deathworld prison, the janitor and Dahlia reached Eli's cell. He was curled up, shaking. "They're in my head," he cried. "I can't tell which memories are mine anymore." The janitor kneeled beside him. "Listen to me, Eli. This is not your fault. It's the leak. One of the others is pushing too hard. You have to shut the door." "I don't know how." Suddenly, Eli screamed. A blast of invisible energy shot out from him, slamming the walls, breaking the lights. The stone cracked. And far away, in the deepest cell, the man who never moved smiled. The prisoner in the lowest level had no name. He had never spoken. He had never opened his eyes, but now he did that only for a moment, just a blink. But when he blinked, every camera in the prison turned to static. Every sensor failed. Warden Dahlia gasped. "He's awake." In the command system, the lights turned red. "Warning, containment levels dropping. Memory stream breached. Entity 01 awareness confirmed." The janitor looked at Dahlia. "It's him. He's leaking memories into Eli. Why now? Maybe he's curious. Or maybe he's testing us." Eli stood up slowly. His eyes were glowing faint blue. "I remember being someone else," he said. "A soldier, a murderer, a god. All at once." "You're not them," the janitor said. "Those aren't your memories. They're echoes." "But I feel them," Eli replied. "They feel real." "Because Echo-class weapons were built with shared minds," Dahlia said. "They connect, even across silence." "Then what happens when we all remember at once?" Eli asked. Nobody answered, because that was the fear. In space, Commander Valrek's ship received a short signal from Earth. "Leak detected. Prepare backup." Valrek stared at the message. He knew what it meant, but backup wouldn't matter. Nothing could fix a memory leak, not when the minds involved were older than stars, full of violence and despair. Still, he turned his ship around. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. We returned to the Deathworld. Inside the prison, Corin reached the door to the lower level. It was not locked. It never had been. He placed his hand on the stone. The door opened. Like paper. Inside, Entity 01 sat on the floor, smiling softly. His eyes were golden. His skin shimmered like a mirror. He was the first of them, the one they built before they understood the danger. "You're awake," Corin said. "Yes," Entity 01 replied, "and so is Eli." "Why him?" "Because he still believes in mercy. That's weakness. That's what makes him human." At that moment, Eli collapsed. Too much. Too many memories. He saw wars that lasted minutes, but destroyed centuries. He saw men who flew without wings, women who spoke in light, children who stopped time just to play. And he saw death in every form. Eli's heart slowed. His breath faded, but one final image came to him, a memory of someone forgiving him, even if he hadn't done anything yet. He gasped and sat up. His eyes were normal again. The janitor smiled. "You did it." "I closed the door," Eli whispered. "I pushed the others out." "How?" "I remembered who I was." Down below, Entity 01 closed his eyes again. He said one sentence before the prison went quiet. "Maybe this generation is ready." Above ground, the alarms stopped. The lights turned green. All systems returned to normal. Warden Dahlia stood still. "We have time again," she said. The janitor nodded. "For now." But he knew what was coming, because memories never truly fade. They just wait for someone new to carry them. Everything felt calm. Too calm. After the memory leak, the Deathworld prison had gone back to silence. Systems worked. The walls were stable. The prisoner sat still again. But deep down, everyone inside the prison, human and alien, knew one truth. This piece was only pretending. The janitor walked alone through Sector X. His steps were slow. His hands trembled. For the first time in years, he felt fear, not because of what he saw, but because of what he couldn't see. The cameras in cell 47 had gone dark. That cell belonged to a prisoner named Asher. He had not moved in 17 years. He had not spoken once. But now, he was gone. In the control room, Warden Dahlia's face was pale, even though she was blind. Her mind could see the entire prison through the neural link. And now her mental map had a blank spot, a cold, empty space where Asher used to be. He didn't break the walls, she whispered. He didn't destroy the door. He just left. The janitor arrived beside her. Are the outer gates still sealed? Yes. No alarms, no breaches. Then where the hell did he go? Dahlia slowly shook her head. We don't know. High above Earth, Commander Valrek's ship arrived in orbit. This time, he didn't bring soldiers, only 2 trusted science officers. We land near the prison's north side, he said. No contact with the main gate, we go quiet. Why are we here again, Commander? One officer asked. Valrek stared out the window. Because one of them is out. And if the humans can't stop him, the galaxy won't survive. Asher walked through the frozen tunnels of the deep prison. The air didn't touch him. Cameras couldn't track him, because he was no longer fully there. His body flickered, solid 1 second, smoke the next. He stepped through walls, floors, time. He wasn't running. He was searching. In Sector X. Eli sat alone, holding a notebook. He had drawn the man from his visions. Tall, bald, eyes like stars. Calm face, calm voice. He had never met Asher, but now he felt him. He's out, Eli said softly. The janitor heard it too. How do you know? Because the other prisoners are praying. Indeed, many of the prisoners had begun to chant. Some whispered in dead languages. Others carved symbols into the floor. One prisoner banged his head against the wall again and again, smiling through blood. None of them were afraid of death. They were afraid of Asher. Back in the observation room, Dahlia accessed the emergency protocols. Should we activate the kill switch? I asked. She didn't answer. Because she knew the truth. There was no kill switch. That had always been a lie. A story told to the guards to feel safe. Asher passed through an old hallway. On the wall, he saw a drawing, faded by time. A human child had drawn it long ago. A sun, a tree, a small house. He paused. And for 1 second, his face softened. He touched the wall gently. Then he kept walking. Above the prison, Valrek's ship landed in the northern desert. He stepped out, scanning the area. No guards, no lights, just dead silence. Are you sure this is smart? His officer asked. Val, our EK pulled out a data crystal. This holds a neural disruptor code. It was designed during the Echo War. If Asher gets close, we use it. Will it kill him? No, Valrek said, but it might give us 5 seconds to run. At that moment, the ground cracked. Not from explosion. But from pressure. Like the world couldn't hold the weight of Asher anymore. He rose through the stone, like smoke, appearing before the Varnock team without warning. Tall, silent, eyes like silver fire. Valrek stepped back. Asher. Asher tilted his head. Then spoke for the first time in history. Why are you here? His voice was deep, kind, but not human. Not anymore. Valrek raised the disruptor crystal. We don't want to fight. Then don't, Asher said. The crystal glowed, but Valrek couldn't move. His hands wouldn't obey. His thoughts slowed, his mind filled with memories not his own. He saw a warship breaking in half, a black hole closing like a mouth, a baby crying in a room made of stars. Asher was sharing his mind. Stop, Valrek gasped. Asher blinked. And it ended. Valrek collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. What are you? A memory, Asher said. And a mistake. Why did you leave the prison? Because something is coming. And they won't understand unless one of us shows them." "Shows who?" Asher didn't reply. He faded into smoke and vanished. Inside the prison, Warden Dahlia felt it. "He's gone," she said. The janitor looked up. "Gone where?" "Not far." "But not near either. Should we stop him?" Dahlia shook her head. "Would you try to stop a storm from moving?" That night, Eli dreamed again, but this time. The dream was quiet. He saw Asher standing under a tree, the same tree from the drawing. The sun was warm, the sky was blue, and for once, Eli didn't feel fear. He felt hope. Far away, in another star system, a HFY War fleet moved toward Earth. They believed the humans were weak. They believed the prison was broken, but they didn't know Asher had left. And they didn't know he was coming for them. The alien ship drifted quietly above Earth's dark desert. Commander Valrek sat tense in the small briefing room, his eyes fixed on the holomap of the prison. The last few days had changed everything he believed about humans and their prisoners. Soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Warden Dahlia entered, slow but steady. She was blind, but her presence held power. Her pale eyes didn't see the room, but she saw more than most. "Commander Valrek," she said calmly, "it is time you know the full truth." Valrek gestured for her to sit. "You told me humans built this prison to hold dangerous weapons. But what are these prisoners really?" Dahlia sighed. "They are not criminals nor monsters, at least not in the way you think. They are survivors of a war we barely understand." Dahlia looked at the holomap. The Echo Project was humanity's last effort to save itself. They created beings with immense power to bend time, space, and mind. But those powers came with a price. "What price?" Valrek asked. "Madness, destruction. They became weapons that could not be controlled." "Then why keep them alive?" Valrek said sharply. "Why not destroy them?" Dahlia's face softened. "Because they are also part of us. We cannot kill what we created. It would be genocide. So we lock them away?" Valrek said. "Not just lock. We watch, we learn. We try to keep balance. These prisoners guard the universe by holding back their own darkness." Valrek stood. "And what about Asher?" Dahlia's lips tightened. "Asher is different. He was the first Echo, the one who broke the silence." "What does that mean?" "It means the prison is changing. The weapons inside are waking up. We don't know if they will be our salvation or our doom." Valrek paced the room. "If they're so dangerous, why does the prison have no guards?" "Because no one can guard them. They guard themselves. And sometimes they guard us." "How?" Dahlia smiled faintly. "By waiting, by reminding. Reminding of what? Of the war. Of what happens when power goes unchecked. Of the price of violence." Suddenly, the alarms rang. A red light flashed. Dahlia's face grew serious. "There's movement in Sector X, Asher?" Valrek asked. "No," she said. "Something new." Down below, the janitor and Eli ran through the hallways. Eli's eyes were wide. "I feel it too," he said. "Like something breaking free." They reached a dark room, deeper than any other inside. The air was thick. A figure stood in the corner. Tall, silent, covered in black tattoos. It was Corin. His eyes glowed red. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Eli swallowed hard. "I'm not afraid." Corin smiled, a terrifying sight. "You should be." Valrek prepared the soldiers. "If the prisoners fight, we cannot stop them. Our weapons will fail. We must negotiate or flee." Dahlia shook her head. "There is no fleeing." "Then what?" Valrek asked. "We hope." Hope, a fragile thing. Valrek looked at the stars. He thought of Asher and the prisoners waiting. And he knew one thing. This war was far from over. Commander Valrek stood on the observation deck of his ship, watching Earth's black desert below. The Deathworld prison was no longer just a distant threat. It was a ticking bomb. The prisoners were awakening. And now, other alien races had taken notice. Far across space, the HFY War fleet moved swiftly toward Earth's system. They saw the chaos as an opportunity. The human prisoners were weapons left uncontrolled, perfect tools to conquer the galaxy. Captain Dran, the ruthless HFY leader, spoke to his officers. "We will take the Deathworld. We will control their weapons. The galaxy will bow to us." Back on Earth, Valrek prepared his soldiers. "The HFY are coming. If they arrive before we control the prisoners, it will be a disaster." Warden Dahlia nodded grimly. "We must unite. Humans, Varnak, and even the prisoners if possible." Valrek frowned. "The prisoners will never trust us." "Maybe not," Dahlia said. "But they will fight if the galaxy is in danger." Deep inside Sector X, Corin's shadow tattoos flickered like flames. He walked toward the central chamber where Eli and the janitor waited. "The HFY will arrive soon," Corin said. "We cannot let them use us." Eli's eyes widened. "Then what do we do?" "We fight." Suddenly, alarms echoed throughout the prison. Sensors detected ships entering Earth's atmosphere. The HFY fleet. Valrek's team scrambled to prepare defenses. "We have minutes," he said. Outside, the HFY ships launched attacks on the prison's shields. Energy beams struck the black stone walls. Inside, the prisoners gathered. No chains. No force fields. Only raw power. Corin raised his hand. Dark shadows erupted, blocking the beams. Eli concentrated, sending waves of energy to repair the walls. The janitor stood silently, watching. "This is what they feared," he whispered. Valrek led his soldiers to support the prisoners. "We fight together or we die alone." A human voice came over the comm. "Commander, the prisoners are breaking through the outer gates." The gates shattered. Asher stepped forward, calm and strong. He looked at the alien invaders. "You want to conquer, but you don't understand what you face." He raised his hand. Wave of energy exploded. The HFY ship shook. The battle was brutal. Prisoners and aliens fought side by side. Explosions lit the desert. Voices shouted commands. Valrek felt fear, but also hope. In the chaos, Eli saw the blind Warden Dahlia fighting a HFY soldier. He rushed to help her. Together, they pushed back the invaders. As the HFY retreated, Asher stood tall. "This prison is not a cage. It is a warning." Valrek nodded slowly. "And now, it is a battleground." The sun rose over the desert. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. The battlefield was quiet. Smoke floated above the desert. Burned ships, broken armor, and deep cracks in the earth showed what had just happened. The HFY were defeated, pushed back by a force they couldn't understand, but the victory didn't bring peace. The real danger was still inside the Deathworld prison, and it had just woken up. In the deepest cell of the prison, the man known as Enidio opened his eyes fully. No alarms, no guards, no panic. Only silence. He stood barefoot, calm, his golden eyes glowing. Asher stood at the cell's edge, watching. "You waited long enough," Asher said. Enidio nodded slowly. The galaxy was not ready, and now they must choose. High above the ground, Commander Valrek looked down from the cliffside. His troops were silent. Some were injured. Others just sat, shaking from the strange powers they had witnessed. He looked at the Earth's cracked surface. He looked at the prisoners helping the wounded. He looked at Eli. "They are not monsters," Valrek said to himself. "They're trying." Inside the command room, Warden Dahlia sat in her chair, her hands trembling slightly. She had just seen Entidio walked out, not in a dream, not in a vision, in reality. "What happens now?" the janitor asked. "The final choice," she whispered. Down in Sector X, all the prisoners gathered in the central chamber. Some glowed. Some burned. Some had no shadows at all. Each of them had enough power to destroy cities or protect planets. Entity O1 stood in the center. "The war is not over," he said. "It never truly ended. Then what do you want from us?" "One prisoner," asked. Entity O1 looked around to decide. Do we remain hidden, punishing ourselves? Or do we return to the stars and risk becoming the monsters they fear? Ale stepped forward. He was the youngest, the least powerful, but now he spoke, with a voice that didn't shake. "We don't have to destroy anything. We can help." "They won't accept us," Corin said coldly. "They never did. Some might," Eli replied. "And even if they don't, we can be better." Asher raised a hand. "The time for silence is over. The stars are watching." He turned to Entity O1. "What will you choose?" Entity O1 walked to the edge of the chamber. A single platform rose slowly from the floor, a black crystal floating above it. This was the core, the heart of the Deathworld prison. Whoever touched it would send a signal across the galaxy. A message of peace or a message of war. Valrek arrived, flanked by 2 Varnak officers. He stood beside the janitor and Dahlia. "Let me speak to them," he said. Dahlia hesitated, then nodded. Valrek entered the chamber. The prisoners turned. They didn't attack. They waited. Valrek stepped carefully. "I came here believing you were weapons. I thought you were all monsters." He looked at Ela, but I was wrong. He turned to Entity O1. "If you want to punish the galaxy, you can. No one can stop you. But you don't have to. You can choose something better." Entity O1 stared at him, then at Eli. Then at the core, his fingers reached forward. Room held its breath. In space, Krelf survivors watched from their damaged ships. Other alien races, listening in secret, tuned into Earth's frequencies. Even hidden AI satellites, floating in silence, locked onto the signal. The galaxy was waiting for a decision. Entity O1 closed his eyes and touched the crystal. A flash of light filled the room. Earth shook gently, but no fire came. No screams, no pain, no death. A voice echoed across the stars. Calm. Human. Full of power. "We were weapons once. We were created to destroy, but now we choose to protect. Do not fear Earth. Do not approach this prison. But know, we are watching. And if danger comes to this galaxy, we will rise." The light faded. Entity O1 stepped back. "It's done," he said. Later that night, the stars above the prison were clear. No storms. No ships. No fear. The prisoners returned to their cells. No doors closed behind them. They stayed. By choice. The janitor walked through the halls, sweeping. Smiling a little, he passed Eli's room. "You did well, kid." Eli looked up. "We all did." Commander Valrek prepared to leave Earth. He met Asher one last time. "You're not what I expected," Valrek said. "Neither are you," Asher replied. "Will I see you again?" "Maybe," Asher said. "If the stars need us." Warden Dahlia returned to her seat. She placed her hand on the old console. Screen showed one word: status. Choice made. She smiled for the first time in years. In the farthest corner of the galaxy, a dark force stirred. It felt the signal, and it feared what it meant. Earth was no longer weak, because the prisoners had chosen to protect. And now, the galaxy would never be the same. The end.